Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Get It Out. It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. Good second. I didn't release an episode last week because I've made an update to the show. And basically, instead of every week releasing a new episode, I'm going to be releasing a new episode every Sunday like normal, but every other week. It's just a better schedule, just timing, and that's why there was no episode last week. But I'm still going to have content on TikTok and Instagram and all, everything to do with that. But for this episode, I'm going to talk about something new. We're going to talk about AI, which stands for Artificial Intelligence, something that's just been taking over globally. This school year has been very, very different compared to past school years in terms of how work is being done by students. In the past, work before like this whole technology thing, work was always done through textbooks. Work was always done because you had to have a source, or work was required to have a source or any type of like textual evidence. And to get that source, it was either through textbooks, readings, experiences, calculators, and all that stuff. And before that, it was, well, prior to that, it was just all through books. Like, you had to go physically to go to the library and actually read through everything to get your evidence. And that was the only way that work was being done. And then after came that revolutionary device that changed the world, first in mathematics, and that was the calculator. And fun fact, the first calculator actually came out in 1623. And the calculator it wasn't like the calculators that we have today. It could only add. That was the only operation that they could do. And in 1820, a new calculator model came out, and it could provide all the four basic operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And in the 1960s, they started becoming more like handheld and pocket size because they were like huge, like typewriter type size calculators. But now in 1960, they were coming out with more like pocket size ones. And then in 1974, calculators started to become programmable and starting to look like the ones that we have today, with all the fancy buttons and like the multiple like settings and all that stuff, graphing calculators and all that stuff. And then the next revolutionary piece of technology was in 1983, and it was the official birth of the internet, and that just took off. You had access to everything, not just with numbers at this point. It was with history, it was with science, it was in English, all like the four core just subjects. Just endless searchable topics on the internet. Any topic could be found. Even today, just search up anything, you will find it. But now there's a new revolutionary piece of technology, and that's happening right now, and that's AI, artificial intelligence. And it was launched, okay, so ChatGPT was the first just big takeoff. Of course, artificial intelligence was being used before that, but now it's being used more than ever, and I think it's because of ChatGPT. And it came out November 30th of last year, 2022. From a student's perspective or point of view, I saw like this just take off, just a giant wave of people using it, like starting like 2023, but like January, February, March type period. And I just saw an increasing number of people like at my school just using it. And now that it's a new school year, I've just seen it more than ever. Like, it's just like, oh, why don't I just use ChatGPT? Or like if you're asking for some for help, why just not use ChatGPT? That was like the only thing that can get you the answers. And teachers don't necessarily like it, students do. It's a very complicated relationship on how everybody likes the program. It's a very controversial relationship between scholars and workers and everything with that. And artificial intelligence is gonna just change the lives of how humans live on a daily basis. And with everything can be good and everything can be bad. Not everything is always good and not everything is always bad. There's always an equilibrium with things. And you never know how artificial intelligence can be put on. Either can it be good or bad, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Is it good or is it bad, or like what's the pros and cons of it? We're going to talk about what the pros and cons of artificial intelligence is. And we're first going to start about the pros. And to start off with the pros, we're going to first talk about improvement in human efficiency. So just like I said with the calculator, simple math was so time consuming because you had to do it on like a separate piece of paper and then add it to the equation, the longer equations that took more time. And it was just so time consuming, and then it took longer to figure out the lengthy equation that you're looking for. But now with a calculator, all those simple math can be done in seconds. You don't have to do it on a separate piece of paper on a notes app or whatever. And that's why it was like those complex equations would have been faster to solve. And it saved mathematicians and scientists so much time. Less time on time-consuming problems. And that's what AI can help people. It would just make the process go so much faster. And just not with simple math equations, but also making inferences with human knowledge. AI has access to the entire internet, which means it also has access to facts and all these like artifacts and museums and articles and all that stuff. And they can take that and add it to a question you're applying and like coming up with cause and effect questions and hypotheses and all this stuff. And also not just with inferences, but more also just increase accuracy. Less human error. Because we've all been in math class and having this long lengthy equation, and then we just miss it by like a couple digits because we either forgot to carry the 1 or somewhere in our head 2 plus 2 equals 5, but like you really know that it's 4, but your hand decided to write 5. Or does your 1 look like a 7 and just the teacher was like, oh, that's not a correct answer. Or did you use the wrong sign by accident? All these like simple human errors, simple mistakes that are made with our writing utensils, that simple mistakes can mess up the entire equation. And it can be scary. Sometimes in like some instances it's not that big of a deal. But when you're talking about like officials that work at NASA, you can't make mistakes. If you've ever seen like Hidden Figures, which is a wonderful, amazing movie, recommend, you have to get every single thing right. Because that's human lives on the line. That's just human species on the line too. Just make sure that everything's going to have to go perfectly correct. Data's on the line too. Just like you reduce the chance of human error with AI. Human studies and projects can be done at a faster rate, and so important goals and plans can be executed and accomplished. And also another pro is having an assistant and sort of a source of creative ideas. Everything's online now. Pretty much everything is online. You don't even have to go and come out of your house to talk to somebody. You can just do it over the phone. You can actually look at someone while talking to them, FaceTime. The internet is so much access. ChatGPT, like I said, has access to all of that, and can be a source of inspiration. in the form of art, schoolwork. Teachers use it, students use it, business professionals use it. And it's also different from copying. You can use it as like, what's a good way I can propose this, or like, what's a good way of advertising, what's a good if you're like an artist, like, hey, maybe I can make up a pattern for me. Or it helps students. Several years ago, you had to, in sources of inspiration, you had to go look at books and actually physically go to a museum and to get sources or inspiration. And now books, artifacts, images are all found online. You don't have to travel across the world to go to a museum. And in terms of like artists, again, images, texts, fonts, patterns, colors, textures, palettes can help all with design, whether it's physical or it's also online. I don't know if you guys seen that AI that you put in a couple words and it just creates artwork. That's amazing. I don't know how it can create multiple, and it's in different styles and genres too. Finding layouts for projects they're all good tools in terms of assistance. Another one is no bias when it comes to decision making. It's just better decision making. Because when we make decisions, we tend to side with what is in our favor. And that's not always a good thing. It's not always beneficial. It's what we always side with what makes us comfortable. And not comfortability is always important, but sometimes when we stick to something, that it's always a good routine. AI can take data and come up with a decision what's best for your sometimes business or for your own needs. I think soon humans are going to start making decisions using AI, especially today, because everything has a bias. Whether you're talking about in opinions or decisions, we always have to side with what's familiar to us and what's comfortable. And when AI can reduce bias, it takes just knowledge and say, okay, what's best for your needs? And it's also make sure that our decisions aren't surrounded, like self-centered and surrounded by us, self-centered. AI can also make decisions and tasks a lot less complex, faster, and also cheaper. Just like GPS. You're like, okay, what's the fastest route to get me from point A to point B? Even if you're on that route too, sometimes it will redirect you because there's traffic or there's a problem where there's some sort of accident. It will reroute and to figure out what's the best way for you to get from point A to point B. And I think AI can help us in that way too, finding ways to simplify our lives so we can focus on the more important things in life. And ending with cons, first, we're going to hear things that are probably going to call us out. Even calling myself out, calling you out is completely okay, because sometimes uncomfortable is learning what's uncomfortable is best for us. And plagiarizing and plagiarism just in general. Everyone has cheated at least once in their life, whether it was school, work, with somebody. I know for sure in school. Not everybody's a goody two-shoes. Even the goody two-shoes have cheated at least once. They probably don't want to admit it, but they've done it before. We either ask for answers, search it up, use Photomat, ChatGPT, some sort of other source. Either because you got lazy, you didn't have time, you didn't have the willpower, you ran out of energy. I get it. I've done it. We've all done it. No, not necessarily a thing to be ashamed of. It's just that sometimes we don't want to do our work. I get it. Sometimes we just don't want to do it. AI is a tool that can make cheating a lot faster. Just make cheating process a lot faster, to get answers a lot faster. However, cheating is a lot. Now with ChatGPT, it's a faster process to cheat. Not only because like getting answers is a lot faster, but tracking the plagiarizing is a lot harder. For example, with essays, yes, sometimes teachers can figure it out, but write me an essay on blah 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 from like an eighth grader perspective or just level. boom, there's the essay, copy, paste, submit. It's so easy. And it's very original at the same time because ChatGPT does it from an original standpoint. There's no like copying from another source. It's all original. So it's as if you could actually write it yourself. And so, yes, cheating is unethical, but sometimes with how easy it is to cheat, cheating is going to become more frequent, and a majority of work in the future is going to be plagiarized. Not saying all, but a good majority of it will. And the problem with that is there's multiple little problems. There's first, the learning process is gone. The whole point of going to school is to learn. There's that whole point is going to be eliminated once like everybody's starting to use this AI program and all the other programs. And two is you go to school to learn something. You go to school to get a career or whatever. If you want to get a job or like have a career in being a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, an engineer, whatever, those jobs that require you to go to a college, with chat, or just, I'm not saying, just with AI, we're going to see an increase of less reliable workers, because if you cheat your way through this whole process of trying to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a dentist, an engineer, if you work your way up through just that scale and you're faced at the job with like, oh, I need to perform a surgery, and have no idea what to do because you cheated your way through it, maybe it's like there's ways to cheat through, maybe not a doctor, but maybe an engineer. You treat your way to like make this building, and then you cheat your way, and there's going to be an error because you don't know what you did. Lives are on the line. You probably made a giant mistake within building that building, and that could collapse and just lead up to like hundreds dying just because of a simple mistake. Also, a lack of integrity builds into habit. It takes 30 to 31 days to build a habit. So once that cheating and plagiarizing becomes more frequent, we're just going to see that way, way more. And it's just going to create into just habit for us. And that's not necessarily a good thing to create habit out of. And also, a lack of originality, of human originality, is going to increase. Human creativity is going to be lost. Humans create, we think, we build, we construct, we use our brains to figure out problems. And just like with AI can only do so much. Humans have imaginations, AI doesn't. So it's just going to be a horrible, horrible way of just... AI is just going to not do its best with imagination. Because there's going to be a limit to everything. And the last one is a lack of effort. Once plagiarizing becomes more frequent, we're going to just not do everything. We're just have so much free time, just be on our devices more. Humans are going to become lazy. It's just going to be a form of WALL-E. If you haven't seen the Disney movie WALL-E, basically, Earth is inhabitable anymore. It's not habitable anymore. And so they live in space on this giant spaceship, and humans just live in chairs. That's it. They live in chairs, they get around with like moving chairs, and they don't get up, and they're lazy, and they don't do anything except just being on a screen 24 hours a day. They sleep, eat while being on the screen, and just be on the screen all the time. They don't have human interaction. So it was like this moment in the movie where two people actually talk for the first time to like each other. It's scary. Not scary as in like horror movie scary, but scary as like, wow, that's kind of sad to think about. And we don't want to get to that point that we live on space and not talk to anybody, because I get it. humans may not have the time or the energy or just the willpower, and cheating is always going to be easier, but easier and faster isn't always the best solution, because part of being human is learning. Another one is increase of unemployment. So robots are part of every industry at this point now. Manufacturing, medical, music, what else? Business, beauty. uh, Robots are going to be able to do human jobs. And once humans are going to be replaced with robots more and more, there's going to become that issue where there's going to be such an increase of unemployment. I'm not saying that I'm like a sidekick about this, but there could be a possibility that there's such an increase in unemployment that people are getting no form of income. In the US, only form of income besides having an actual job, security checks, and food stamps. Besides that, it's going to be very difficult to pay rent, pay for food, pay for your car, pay for bills, and just basic human necessities, shelter, food, and water. Where are the wages coming from if there's such an increase of unemployment? It can be a serious issue that can arise. And I'm going to leave this last con as probably the most important one. And the last important con, it's very, very serious. So, a lack of human interaction and emotion. Kids already today are just glued to their devices. I'm going to take responsibility and ownership. There are cases where I don't want to do anything. I just want to be on my phone or just watch TV or just be glued to my phone just for maybe hours on end. I'm going to be serious. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to be here and be like, I'm never on my phone. Like, I don't do screen. No. I'm going to be honest. I know it's better to be brutally honest than being a liar. And especially with toddlers today, I've never seen so many toddlers being glued to their iPads or a phone or their parents' phone, and now when they get older they're using computers, and just toddlers with devices these days are just crazy. And too much technology is bad. We've all heard it from our parents. We just like, just leave me alone. But it's true. It's true. As I was doing research for this, I found out through this study, a study made by the Yale Department of Psychiatry and Columbia School of Nursing. They did a study doing a relationship based on between screen time and mental health problems. And this is a quote that I found from their article. It found that youth who spent the most time on their digital technology were statistically more likely to exhibit higher levels of internalizing problems 2 years later. Internalizing problems include depression, anxiety, social anxiety, somatic complaints, and other concerns. Over the years, technology use has increased in all ages, and issues like extreme levels of anxiety, social anxiety, increase in self-isolation. As the use in technology increases, those problems will increase too. And kids already today are battling so many mental health problems. It's nuts. It's truly nuts. What's the reason to increase the number? What's the reason? Unless there are limits, it's a solvable problem. Unless there's like limits and limitations and regulations of how much screen time is being used and put into play, self-isolation, because if we're going to be on our phones all the time, being inside, it's going to decrease human interaction. And socialization today is already difficult. Like sometimes it's so hard to just make a phone call to or like order something online. It's already like really bad. Sometimes you don't want to call on the phone because you have that bad of social anxiety or just don't want to talk to, or you're too shy, or I get it. We all have some sort of thing about us that isn't so to us prideful. And there's no need to make it worse. And also there's also this lack of ethical reasoning. If AI is going to be doing our task, our decision making, our projects, AI isn't human. So that means AI doesn't have morals, any learning of ethics, knowledge of ethics, or values. We humans have morals and ethics and values. And so if we let AI do all those tasks and decision-making projects for us, they might not add the factor of ethics when it comes to talking about a whole group of people. And especially in business, where ethics are very limited. We've all heard it, like wages, worker, labor, and all this stuff. It's already bad. If we're going to continue doing it with AI, it's just going to keep getting worse. There's no need to increase the issue. I'm not saying it will happen. There's a possibility it can happen. There's no need to increase the issue. And depending on the use or the situation, AI can be good, AI can be bad, depending on whatever situation you're in. I'm not here to make you take a side, because I always want to make sure you guys have like a unbiased, but also make sure you know the ethics of people that from multiple perspectives. I just want you to get to know those perspectives. And that's today's episode. You take AI as you will. It's not a bad thing. I think it's a cool thing. Like a cool futuristic, there's good and there's bad, and a good equilibrium is always, with anything, there's always has to be an equilibrium. That's today's episode. I hope you guys have a good one. Stay tuned. Make sure you listen to past episodes if you haven't listened to them. And see you next week.